Stories that time forgot.
A single mouse click was all that stood between the global financial system and total salvation or absolute collapse. And the man with his finger on the button chose silence over survival. The email that liquidated Lehman Brothers. Imagine yourself on the 31st floor of a glass skyscraper in the heart of Times Square. The air conditioning hums with a cold, metallic drone, and the scent of expensive coffee mingles with the cold sweat of hundreds of analysts watching their screens turn blood red. It is Monday, September 15th, 2008, at 9:42 in the morning. You are Richard Fuld, the King of Wall Street, and you have just received a message that could rewrite the history of the 21st century. The sender is no ordinary player. It is Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, the man whose signature alone can still the storms of international markets. The subject line is dry and professional, structured proposal. As you open it, your eyes scan 3 paragraphs offering a $5 billion lifeline. Berkshire Hathaway is ready to buy 40% of your empire. But there is a price your pride cannot stomach. Buffett demands your immediate resignation and total access to the cooking books you have spent months trying to hide. You have less than 80 minutes to decide. The clock on the wall ticks forward like a judge's gavel. Would you surrender your throne to save your 60,000 employees, or would you gamble the future of the world on the hope that you can survive one more round? The atmosphere in New York that day was electric, heavy with an oppressive humidity that signaled a lightning storm that never quite broke. The wail of ambulance sirens and the grinding traffic of 7th Avenue filtered through the reinforced windows, creating an echo of external chaos that mirrored the internal desperation of the bank. Richard Fuld, known as the gorilla for his predatory style and clenched jaw, was not a man accustomed to having terms dictated to him. For 19 years, he had navigated crisis after crisis, from the dot-com bubble to the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. In his mind, he was not an employee. He was Lehman Brothers. That is why, when he read Buffett's offer, he did not see a rescue. He saw a public execution. Buffett, with his trademark mathematical coldness, knew that time was the scarcest asset of all. His warning that the market would decide after 11 o'clock was a prophecy that Fuld, blinded by decades of uninterrupted dominance, chose to ignore. You must understand that, by then, Lehman's condition was an open secret in the halls of the Federal Reserve. The bank had become an addict to toxic mortgage-backed securities. They held $61 billion in debt on their books that was worth less than the paper it was printed on. To mask this black hole, they employed an accounting shell game known as Repo 105. Essentially, they shuffled billions of dollars to London banks just before reporting their earnings, making it appear as though they had far less leverage than they truly carried. It was a house of cards built on shifting sands. The auditors at Ernst & Young had already flagged the fraud, but Fuld brushed them off like annoying flies. He believed that if he could just make it to Tuesday, the United States government would blink first and bail them out, just as they had done for Bear Stearns. But the political winds in Washington had shifted. Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson was under suffocating pressure. The American public was fed up with seeing their tax dollars used to bail out millionaires while they lost their own homes. While Fuld ignored Buffett's email, an emergency meeting that felt more like a preemptive wake was taking place at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. The chief executive officers of Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan Chase sat in a windowless room, ties loosened and faces pale from lack of sleep. The air smelled of old paper and raw fear. Paulson gave them an ultimatum. Either they found a private sector solution to absorb Lehman Brothers, or the bank would go under. There would be no public money. Not a single cent. Meanwhile, back in Fuld's office, the sand was running out. At 10:17, he sent a response that would seal his fate. He did not accept. He did not resign. He simply wrote that they were evaluating their options. It was like trying to put out a forest fire with a glass of water. At 11:03, Buffett's second email arrived like a hammer blow. Offer withdrawn. Good luck. In that precise moment, the destiny of the global economy was locked in. The market opened and the carnage began. Lehman Brothers stock started falling like a stone into a bottomless pit. Investors, smelling blood in the water, began a massive run on the bank. The phones would not stop ringing. Clients from every corner of the globe were demanding their savings back, but the vaults were empty. The fall of Lehman was not just a financial bankruptcy. It was a human tragedy on a nearly unimaginable scale. 60,000 families lost their livelihoods overnight. On the streets of Manhattan, young analysts could be seen walking out of the building carrying cardboard boxes filled with photos of their children and desk plants, their eyes vacant and their shoulders slumped. The aftershocks were felt in every corner of the planet. In Spain, the savings banks began to tremble. In Germany, the international financial messaging system saw a frenzy of desperate transactions. Liquidity, the lifeblood that keeps the heart of the world beating, froze solid. $4 trillion in value evaporated in a single week of financial terror. Years later, it emerged that Richard Fuld kept that email in a hidden folder on his personal computer. It is said he would review it during sleepless nights at his mansion in Connecticut, wondering what might have happened if he had possessed the humility to step aside. The ego, that engine that drove him to the summit, was the very thing that blinded him to the precipice. Buffett, for his part, never showed regret. To him, it was just another failed trade. But for the rest of the world, it was the dawn of the Great Recession, a decade of austerity, unemployment, and a deep-seated distrust in institutions that still shapes our political and social reality today. The lesson is bitter but clear. No one is too big to fail, and the market has no memory. It only has hunger. What would you have done in Richard Fuld's shoes, knowing that your decision today could ruin the lives of millions tomorrow? Would you have accepted Buffett's deal, sacrificing your power and prestige to save the system? Or would you have bet on your instincts until the bitter end, just as he did? Leave us your thoughts in the comments. We are fascinated to know where you stand on this moral and financial crossroads. Like and subscribe to discover more stories time forgot.